Hi, my name is Chaikit. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Synopsys Solutions, a RegTech company based in Singapore. We focus our attention on providing anti-money laundering, counter-terrorism financing, and know your customers software as a service for our customers across the sectors in banking, financial institutions, fintech sectors, as well as non-financial services sectors. So the market is very exciting for us because in the space of regulatory requirements and needing to comply with ever-increasing regulatory requirements across the world, this is where a lot of the, even the incumbents, banking companies as well as the financial institutions, they are struggling to comply with the ever-increasing regulations across the world. So what we do a lot in our company, Synopsys Solutions, is actually to help our clients overcome the regulatory burden by automating the manual and digitizing the analog. I think this is a very important thing that we're doing here because statistically speaking, there or thereabout 3% of global GDP is being laundered annually, which is a huge amount of money. So that, in essence, whether is it through the banks, financial institutions, or through other means or other service providers that is actually knowingly or unknowingly helping or facilitating the process of money laundering, or worse still, financing the terrorism activities. These are areas whereby it has significant effect on society, human beings, as well as the ability for us to have peace and order in any country that we operate. So we see that as a very, very important aspect to be able to help our clients do their part to comply with regulatory requirements and at the same time be able to operate and do their business properly. So in terms of the trend that is happening in the industry, this is an area whereby a lot of people do not want to focus too much attention because it's a bit of a pain and a bit of a burden. So we see that as a very exciting growth area because we are able to help our clients automate the processes, which otherwise they would have to throw more bodies at the problem, which is not sustainable. That's number one. And then for financial technology, fintech companies, as well as the smaller, medium-sized enterprises out there who needs to comply with anti-money laundering, KYC, know your customer requirement, they will struggle to catch up if they are using the old school method of performing all these checks, all these due diligence in a manual and analog fashion. So for us to be able to help them digitize and automate sets them on the path of growth that it becomes a competitive advantage to actually comply rather than try to find ways to skirt around compliance requirements. I don't think that this will ever stop because as regulators around the world put in more regulatory requirements and as more technology trends evolve, there'll be more ways for people to, or the bad guys or the bad actors to come up with new ways of getting around the regulatory requirements or try to launder money or try to finance terrorism. So the challenge for us is really to continuously keep up to speed with the technology trends or as well as the trends of what the money launderers and the terrorism financiers will use, and then we can be one step ahead of the curve, because otherwise we will always be trailing behind trying to do our part or trying to help our clients to do their part to comply with requirements. That's going to be a continuously catching up exercise. The bad guys will always have a bit of advantage because in a way they operate in the dark side, from the dark side. So that's where it's where the unknown sector is, which means that the regulators will have to come up with, will need to identify what are the trends that is obviously occurring across the world before they can say, okay, let's plug this gap, let's put in place this measure, and then for the rest of the financial institution sector to be able to say, hey, I need to do a little bit more on due diligence, I need to focus a little bit more on technology. So I think it's always going to be a bit of a catching up that unfortunately the speed of passing legislation, implementing regulation is always going to be a bit slower. But that does not mean that we cannot catch up as quick as we can, because regulators around the world are using advanced technology, artificial intelligence, machine learning, data analytics to spot trends. And so for the regulated entities like the banks, the financial institutions and the likes, where they're offering services to their customers, they need to also be up to speed and keep up in terms of the technological advancements of the trends around the world. And then they will be able to spot and identify anything anything that is unusual or patterns of suspicious behavior, and then do their part to report anything that is unusual and suspicious to the police. Over the last decade or so, the financial industry globally, or the banking industry globally, has been hit with too many malpractices or too many disregard of regulations. And then I think it's about the right time now, whereby whether it's Singapore or whether it's anywhere else in the world, the regulatory requirement and everyone else has been sitting up, even the likes of Financial Action Task Force. For example, FATF is the supreme body, that intergovernmental body that deals with AML and KYC and CTF matters, and they are setting standards. They are on top of setting guidelines for the rest of the world. So all these ingredients put together will mean that there is a great push for financial institutions and banks and even non-financial institutions to do their part. That this is a serious problem we have globally, and we need to address it. And how best to address it? Throwing bodies at the problem is not going to help in the long run. We've seen that happening before. It's not efficient, it's not effective. So using technology and is definitely the way to go. More efficient, more accurate, less human error, and more importantly, it's not as costly as a lot of people think, because of the prevalence of commoditization of a lot of technologies out there today. Cloud computing and the likes, artificial intelligence and machine learning allows people to tap into the goodness of this technology to do what they couldn't do in the past with human beings.